What's up guys, today I'm going to be talking about Ancient CT side and how you can become a better player. You guys seem to like my last video, so if this video hits 50 likes, I'll make a guide on Vertigo CT next. Quick side note, I want to thank you guys for 500 subs. It means a lot to me, so I'll definitely keep making videos like this if you guys want to watch them, so make sure you're subscribed. First I'm going to talk about B site, then move to mid, A, and then talk about the op. What you have to remember on this map is that all of the positions are very closely interconnected. So there's no, solo bomb sites. There's no places where you really are separated from your team. You're kind of active with your team on every single round. So that's what you have to remember in each spot that you play. The reason for this is because it doesn't matter what P90 rushes you on the other team, but you play the same spot almost every single round. So you might be late to a position while the entire other team is up faster than you could imagine, or you beat the other team to where you were going to go because you have a better spawn. So just keep that into consideration while I talk about all of these spots. Okay, the first spot I'm going to talk about is B anchor, or the long player, either way. Typically this player will play towards long and back site, and he'll be supporting the CT playing in cave. So if you have this spawn, it's the best spawn for B obviously because you're the closest. What I would try to do at the start of each round is find a way to molly ramp like this. And it's important that it lands in the middle here, because if you throw a molly that lands at the top, the T's can actually walk up here and start taking fights immediately. But if this molly was in the middle of the ramp right here, they wouldn't be able to do that. They'd be pushed back all the way here and they wouldn't be able to come up into this cubby. If you're playing against a team that doesn't like to rush, you can actually save your molly. It's not necessary to play the rounds. You can always just throw a nade like this and cross. When you're playing this role, what you're going to be doing a lot of is jump spotting. So a good way to jump spot is like this, where I'm air strafing with my A key and I'm doing kind of a circle, because it's hard to get hit by the op if you're doing this properly, if somebody boosts into your team, and you get free info if somebody peeks bottom ramp as a T. So you're able to react much sooner than if you were just standing here, playing back like this, super passive. The other team could walk up at you, so jump spotting is always a good option when you're the long player. If you look to the top left of my screen, you can see that my radar covers the entire map. And that's important for this role and all the roles on Ancient, because you're trying to link up with your teammates a lot. Most of the rounds that you play, you're going to be linking with your teammates. Because let's say your teammates push mid and they come up mid here and they start taking fights. You need to be able to understand that if you're back here and your teammates are fighting for their lives, and they could really use help from you at B, since you're able to, maybe pick off one guy here or walk down and surprise people, right? Coming over here and surprising them. You have to be ready to do that as the long player. The cave player might be occupied, he might be behind a smoke that the T's throw. He might not be able to do anything, or he's already fighting. So it's your job to recognize that your teammates might need you to come down the ramp. And one of the ways that you can help your teammates without necessarily running it down and pushing is to smoke the doors like this. So you can just smoke when your teammates are coming down in this doorway, and it smokes the doors off. And this gives a much easier time for your teammates to come. They only have to look at one side, they can clear everything. Versus if the door wasn't covered, there could be a guy peeking in and out. Plus, it blocks off vision from these people back here, so they can't see if you're coming down the ramp. Here are some bonus combos that I found. I've found magic throwing these, player for Team Spirit. There's a lot of ways to do these nades, but I like these the most because they're pretty safe. So if you want to smoke the door from back here, you come into this right here on this corner. It doesn't have to be very precise. And you aim in this general area. I kind of think of like an X pattern right here. You just do a jump throw, and that will land in the door. And then you can walk throw in this general area a molly that lands like this. And this is going to help your teammates out a lot, because people, T's really like to stand in this area. They're going to be forced to be in a little cubby, and it's going to be hard for them to fight, so you can throw that whenever your teammates are coming up. Okay, so the next position is the cave player. And what I'll say about this position to begin with is that the spawn really does matter. If you don't have one of the spawns that's here or here, it's going to be really hard for you to play aggressive. You're going to be forced to not play in a way that might get you killed at the start of the round. And the reason for this is that if you don't have a spawn that's here, you have a spawn that's maybe one of these three on this side, and you run cave all the way here, and you try to fight cave, and you peek this, the T's will be about right here while you're peeking this for the first time. And it's very hard for you to come and try to flick to one of these people, especially with an M4, versus, this guy could have a jumping Mac 10 and just destroy you, right? So if you don't have one of the two best spawns, I'll say this, that you don't want to be holding W here. As if the other team is playing very aggressive, smoking a bunch of mollies and rushing you, it's going to be very hard for you to live, and you're going to cost your team a lot of rounds by playing super aggressive. With that being said, if you do have one of these good spawns, I want you to learn this utility set that I saw Chopper throw, and I think that this is the best way to block the cave run up and punish the T's for trying to rush you. So you start here and you run, you get to short, and then I want you to look for this ornamentary thing on the wall. I don't know what else to call it. So I'm running along this wall. I'm aiming, you know, in this general area, not too high. Aiming like this and left click throwing. And this is going to be a perfect molly to stop people from running up. Because if you're a T coming up and you see this molly, you can't really justify running through all this length of molly, right? You have to put it out. And what that means is that they're going to give a sound cue when they throw this smoke, and it's going to do the hiss sound, right? So as the cave player, you'll be able to hear the hiss, and you'll know that they're coming up and be more prepared. Okay, after the molly, I want you to pull a nade out. So you molly, pull a nade here, and you see this thing, these bricks right here, you're going to bounce a nade off of these bricks. So this one is definitely harder than the molly. I'm going to miss it a bunch of times. You can practice it, but there we go. So imagine the molly's here. This nade will hit them while they're in the molly coming up. So if they decide to not smoke this molly, which a lot of people in beginner games tend to not do, they will fully die to this molly. And you won't even have to see them. They'll just completely die. So again, from here, molly, nade. The last piece of util you can throw is optional, but I like to throw a flash like this. Because let's say you didn't have a perfect spawn, and the other team is really just holding their W keys as hard as possible. If you throw this flash, it's going to pop right here, right? So if they're peeking you, they'll be blinded while you'll have the chance to swing, since you're able to dodge it super easily and bang, it's free kill on a guy if he's rushing you. So remember, from spawn, molly, nade, flash, boom. You can fight like that. And this is a very important term in Counter-Strike that a lot of people don't get introduced to until it's far too late, and they've already been doing it without knowing what it's called, but it's called conditioning. What is conditioning? Conditioning is where you're making the opponent team play in a way based on what you do to them without seeing them. So what you're doing with this Molotov is throwing it so that the enemy team knows, okay, it's going to be hard for us to rush cave because of these nades that we're throwing, so we're just not going to do it. You've conditioned the other team into not holding W at cave and making them play in a certain way. And now you're able to take control of rounds in the future, you know, unless they completely throw caution to the wind and try to rush you through those nades. Okay, so now that we've stopped the other team from rushing, how are we supposed to play? So there's a few things that I want you to think about. And that's the fact that when you're coming up close here, you're going to be close to B and mid. At this point, since you still have a smoke grenade, if you threw all three of these nades, you'll still have a smoke grenade. You're going to make a decision whether you want to fight mid or you want to fight B. And so if you want to fight B, the reasons that you would do that is that your team has successfully taken mid and they're jumping up on the box here to fight with you, which I'll talk about in a second. They're jumping up on the box with you and fighting, which means that you're able to fight like this with your teammates because you were able to get up so close and you know that nothing is close to you. But let's say you wanted to fight mid. Since you still have a smoke, you can throw your smoke just simply like this, and what this does is it fully blocks off anything at B, and now you're able to fight mid. So this is good when your teammates are, you know, they're trying to fight here, you know, maybe they got a kill and they traded, and now it's a 4v4 or a 3v3, and you're already close here. So, you know, you don't want to waste this valuable positioning, so you can throw a smoke off the wall, very simply, and just fight. And the people who are B, Ts, it's impossible to trade you here if you get a kill. This is, it's never going to happen, you know? They have no idea how you're peeking like this, right? There's just no way. From my experience, there is just no way you're going to die if you throw the smoke from B. And then in the off chance that you get pushed back from cave and in a beginner level game, if they're not holding W at you, it's very rare for them to push you off of cave. But for when you get better at the game, let's say you get pushed off from cave and you're forced back to site. This is okay. You're allowed to play from back here and just jiggle this angle, since you're able to, you know, get away or come back into the site if they push you, or, you know, take a fight like this. It's okay. You don't have to play in this area to play the game, And you know, you don't have to feel tilted if you get pushed off every single round. It's okay. You can play it from sight here. So this is, you're the cave player, but you're also the player who's most likely going to be playing from pillar, cubby, and short. Probably not long, but definitely in the cave. Okay, so moving on to mid. If you're an A player, I think that you should watch the mid section also, and not just the A section, because a lot of the time you're going to be responsible for playing mid with your mid teammate, while let's say your team wants to go 3B, or the opper wants to go A. You know, you're going to have to know how to play mid too. You can't just know how to play A. The reason for this is because A can be kind of a low activity bomb site, and mid is much more important because it opens up so many lines into different parts of the map. So it's really important to have mid for both teams. So you're going to want to learn how to fight for mid. So there's a few ways to fight for mid. I'm going to talk about the simplest one, and then I'm going to go over one that requires a smoke that takes a little bit of time to learn, but I'd say it's worth it for most people. So the general way that you want to play mid in an ideal round is to have 2 Molotovs. I want the first mid player to come here and throw a molly that lands deep. Just like that, okay? I'm running, and I see this gap right here. It's pretty obvious, and I just run forward. Okay? The second mid player is going to throw a molly like this. This is the simplest way to do it. Obviously, there's more ways to do it. And so when you're playing solo queue, I want you to coordinate with your teammate who's throwing which molly. So you can say to your teammate, I'll throw deep molly, or I'll throw close molly. And the reason that you're doing this is because you're trying to stop a rush at the end of the day. Because if the other team rushes mid, you have 2 teammates B, and maybe there's somebody at A, but a lot of the times there won't be. It's going to be very hard to win the round if you lose to a mid rush. So you're trying to do whatever you can to stop a mid rush, and try to be a player who comes up and fights here with your teammates. If you've watched any pro CS in the past 3 months, you've probably heard of Team Spirit, and you've probably watched Donk play. And if you watch how Donk plays on this map, even if 1 billion people watch this video, nobody would be able to beat him on this map. If you watch how Donk plays, he is always jumping up on this box. So the 2 things you have to remember playing mid are to deny a rush and to try to jump up on this box. And if you can do both of those things, you've had a successful round, and things are going in your favor at that point. If you want to have a lot of success with very basic team play between your teammates at B and you in mid, you can tell your cave player, hey, I'm going to run down mid, can you fight B with me? It's very simple, and your cave player will likely want to do that with you. And so if you're able to successfully get mid and fight, he will be close next to you to come help you. You know, if you're up here and you're fighting, your cave player will be here. Even if he doesn't understand what I'm talking about in this guide, he'll understand that you're holding W, so he'll try to hold W with you. Now, let's say that you are not the player jumping up on the box. What are you meant to do? So after these 2 mollies come out and there's nothing here, your teammate's running up, you're just kind of sitting here doing not much. So what I want you to do is use your smoke and smoke bottom mid if it hasn't been done yet. And what this does is it completely locks in the mid player to be able to come up here and start fighting. And it's not that hard for him to turn around and continue fighting like this. He can very easily go between these 2 things, right? And so that's what this smoke allows you to do. And so if you don't want to have to throw it from mid and you want to throw it off spawn, because, you know, maybe you're being a little lazy, I want you to learn the spawn lineups for instant bottom mid smoke. I'll link a video in the description. They're not that hard. But the reason you would do that is because maybe you're not confident that you can throw these mollies and then get down. A T side will see this smoke, and if they're not total brain rot CS players and they're thinking and they don't want to throw their life away for nothing, most of the time they won't come through this, okay? It's very, very risky. So throwing the smoke at the start of the round like this, and then having your teammate molly, there's really not that much that the T's can do to come out. Okay, one thing that you're going to have to remember about CS is that nothing is going to go to plan, okay? So a lot of the time, especially if you're solo queuing, you'll have to give mid control, you know, since maybe your teammate didn't listen to you, or just something else happened where, you know, you can't take mid control. So what do you do in that scenario? So as the house player versus the donut player, if you're the house player, most of the time you're going to be behind a smoke. And since you didn't take mid on this round and you're behind a smoke, you can very easily just throw a nade like this and go for 1 kill. That's a very valid play. And if you die doing it, then it is a little unlucky, since you can pick exactly what time you're going to throw a nade like this. You know, take a fight, obviously throw a better nade than me, but you can pick whatever timing you want and surprise the other team. A lot of times somebody is going to be out here in the open, or, you know, as a T jumping up on this box, you can get a free kill on whoever, you know, you wanted to pick off after breaking that smoke. And then if you're the player who ends up going donut, it's very important that you just play in a way where it's going to be hard for you to die. Okay, so if you're playing donut and you're playing in this position, let's say, it's very easy for you to die, right? If you're playing in this position, it's very easy for you to die. But if you're playing in this position, right, it's a bit harder for you to die, since the other team is going to have to fully walk up and start doing stuff to you, you know, in order to clear you out. So by the time you're dying here, you know, maybe you can get out if you're playing like here, for example, right? You have enough time to live and have the chance to get away, versus if you play super aggressive and just die and like right here peeking when no one can help you, right? So I want you to play very safe once you're in donut and play mainly for information, since you can get information on somebody who's all the way back there, and you can relay it to your teammates. What I would say is, if you end up giving mid, I want you to play with 2 people on B, 1 person holding house and getting house information, and then 2 people towards A, because it's going to be hard for the A player to hold A by himself in the late round. If you've ever played this map, you understand that you can't really hold both of these things at once. It's very hard to, you know, hold this and then go between them and have a good timing, right? It's very dangerous to do that. So you have 1 person holding this, 1 person holding this, 1 person holding this, and then 2 people holding this. And if you have your radar spread out like I do, you can see exactly what people are holding and, you know, glance and say like, hey, could you hold my house? Or like, I'm holding donut, and like, perfect, you know. You can get that stuff set up pretty easily if you're paying attention to it. If you're an A player, I want you to spam by the op as much as you can. If you can afford to double op on this map, it is extremely, extremely strong, and it will just net you free rounds and tilt the other team, because it is impossible to tell when people have an op on the other team if you're a T trying to come A. If you have an op and, you know, the other team doesn't expect it, it's really just, these are the freest kills of your life, you know, if you're playing in here and you're posted on this and somebody walks out. I mean, you don't even have to try. You don't even have to be good or anything to get these kills. Are so free. Like, I mean, look at how hard this is to fight as a T, right? You can play, if they actually fixed the game, they did. You can play up here, right? Get a kill, fall off. You can play here. It's a bit more risky. You can play there, right? You can play here. The op is so broken on A site that if you have the money to buy one and you're not buying it, then you're making your life way harder than it has to be. So buy the op. Now, let's say you don't have money for an op, but you still want to, you know, play with impact. I've seen this play a lot recently, where you can play up close here with a molly, jiggle like this. You can see the shadow and then throw it here when you get contact, right? Because if you throw this molly and somebody runs through it, they're going to take about 60 damage, and they have no idea where you are exactly. So you can get kills here, you know, once this molly gets thrown. You see people, bang, boom, easy kills. You can really play like a rat on A site. You can play angles like this where you just jiggle. And my sound is kind of low, but I'm not making any noise jiggling like this, you know. I'm peeking here. It's very hard for the other team to expect you to be here. They have so many things that they have to clear, you know. If they come out and peek like this, it's a 50-50 on whether you're there or not, right? If they come out and peek like this, it's a 50-50 if you're CT, or if you're on this angle, or, you know, if you're playing here, like an off angle. You can just play so many different off angles, and that's what I want you to remember, is that you can pick and choose whatever angles you really want to play, and just play them. Okay, if you're opping on this map, one of the things you have to remember is that it's very hard to play house, since house gets smoked a lot in the early rounds. So most of the times, if I ever have the op and I'm playing the op role, I'm never going house, and I'm probably starting B, somewhere like this. Or I'm doing what the cave player would do, so, you know, running up, maybe with just the molly and just posting here, right? I'll be playing A, you know, like I'll literally start the round out here or in CT spawn, you know. Basically what I'm trying to say is never go house, you know. And honestly, Ancient as a map, there's so many places to just kind of tuck the op and, you know, play very, very hard to kill angles like this one, or even like this one. You can play like here. You can play just posted on this. You can play in donut. It's very strong with the op because, you know, you can shut down this whole lane right here with a single scope. You can see both. You know, this flick is a bit hard, but, you know, you can go for it. You just want to be shutting down parts of the map. You know, since there's not that many lanes for the T's to go. So whatever read that you have on the game, use it to your advantage, because you'll know best where you think the other team is going to go based on how the game's been going. So you can find the spot that'll have the most impact with the op every single round. Alright guys, that wraps it up for this video. If you like this type of video and you want to see more, just hit the subscribe button. I'm going to be making a lot more videos like this in the future. Remember that this video only covered the bare basics, and it doesn't teach you everything there is to know about Counter-Strike. And yeah, that's all I have for today. Peace.